welcome to the Expat Pod. My name is James, your host, and today I'm with Bella. So
Hello.
Please give yourself or tell everyone what you do and why you're here.
I am a nurse by profession. I work as a clinical practice educator. So instead of working with patients in A&E, what I do is I train nurses in A&E, but that wasn't my job when I first came to the UK. My first job was as a ward nurse, but that was, let me say, more than 8 years ago. So that's been a while. Same time, I also have an online business in network marketing, my affiliate marketing, and the plan is for me to go full-time on that at some point.
Nice. And where is it you came from originally, sorry?
From the Philippines.
Great. You see you've been here for 8 years.
Yeah, more than 8 years.
Well, we'll go into section 1, which is all about getting there. So welcome to section 1 of the podcast, all about getting there. So you said you were from the Philippines. So what was it like when you first moved? Did you have a job in mind? Did you find a job? Or what made you want to leave home?
I already had a job. I was already recruited even before coming to the UK. Because to come here, being somebody from the Philippines, you can't just come, have a visa, all that long process, and papers from the Nursing and Midwifery Council, all the with a lot of paperwork. Yeah. So why I wanted to come, it was the opportunity that was available. I knew that I didn't want to stay in the Philippines forever. I became a nurse to be able to live and work in another country. I just knew I meant to stay back home, and there's a lot of growth that comes with it anyway. I don't regret doing it. I think it's a huge chance.
And you talk about the visa stuff. How long was that process, and I guess the qualification checks you had to do as well? What was that like?
Oh, let me see. A few months, I would say. A few months. I can't remember now because this was 8 years ago.
Yeah.
So let me see. I arrived in 2015, maybe late 2014. I knew I was going to have this job. Was it late 2014 or mid 2014? So a good 4 to 6 months, I would say, from me being interviewed for the job until me flying to the UK. Quite a while.
And you said you were headhunted, or were you? Did you apply for it?
So I was my details were already with an agency that
Oh.
helps nurses come to the UK. So they already had my details, so they just invited me for an interview, and I got the job. I had to fly from one island to the other for that.
Oh wow! This is
Yeah,
quite a big step for interview.
yeah, it wasn't in my local area, and even my medical checks, I had to fly from Cebu to Manila, which is a pain. And one of the reasons why most nurses would like to leave the country is because the pay is so bad in the Philippines. It's just not a good place to stay if you really want to elevate your life, I would say, financially.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's why it's everyone, but most people who are nurses in the Philippines would really leave because the pay is really bad. It is a developed country, so you could imagine the pay is nothing like it is here.
Yeah. Would you give some advice to nurses in the Philippines then to put the CVs on the site that you had or the agency you used if they wanted to leave?
So I used an agency called ASC Global, and I'm not sure if they're still
existing.
But they were very good. I mean, if they're still existing, I would definitely recommend them because they've taken care of us really well, from interview to all those application on paper, from visa, and just giving us all the information we need until we flew to the UK.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, they really did take care of us really well. My cousin used them before me, so she was already here. Level of trust for this agency, and I just don't have the knowledge right now if they still exist, but more than 8 years ago.
If they do, I'll put a link in the show notes for people to access it, and then they can.
It's AE Global, and my advice for nurses in the Philippines, I know it's not gonna be. I mean, the government's not going to be very happy with me saying, like, come abroad or something. Yeah. That would mean there won't be enough nurses back home. And I've even heard that the government is trying to limit the number of nurses being sent.
Oh, wow.
Abroad. And I don't know if that's possible because maybe they're making it harder, I guess,
Mhm.
to leave the country, which I think is unfair.
Yeah, it's basically being detained because you've got an amazing skill.
I mean, I don't know the specifics, but this is hearsay, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that's right.
Who has an agency here in the UK, an agency that helps people from the Philippines come to the UK via the nurse route or the caregiver route. So my advice is, if you want to leave the country, I would say go for it. And I know it's better to leave probably when you're not married yet and you don't have children, because it's harder because then you're leaving your family. Although there is the option of bringing your family here, and I'm still single, which made it so much easier for me. Childcare here is very expensive. It's not going to be like home where there's always family around to take care of kids.
Yeah,
We
that's
don't.
something I've looked at as well. In Sweden, childcare is free,
Oh wow.
and that helps like both parents go back to work and have careers, which is great as well. Because yeah, looking at the UK, like so my friend has just told me he's expecting a child, and he's looking at £300 a month for nursery fees. It's still not as much as I've heard other people say, but it's still a lot of money to add on. Like it's the same price I was paying for a car when I was in the UK, which is it's quite a big expense you have to think about. That's not even including like looking after food and clothes and everything else. So,
Oh yeah, yeah. Also, that's wonderful. I don't really know much about Sweden. Do people speak English there? Do they all speak English?
yeah, better than we do. Better than I do, especially because like you're taught it from a young age and you're taught it properly. Whereas for me, I was just able to speak it, so I didn't really pay attention in English class. So my grammar is probably worse than most people who speak it as a second language, because you had to study it and pass exams in it. I was like, yeah, I can get my grade and go to the next thing, because I was always maths and physics was what I enjoyed. Uh,
Oh, okay.
so my brain works that way. But yeah, everyone speaks English, which is a shame because I'm trying to learn Swedish and I'm doing lessons and things, but it's really difficult. So when you first move, it's pretty good because you can do everything without having to think too much, because everyone just switches into Swedish or English. If you just say engelska, it means English, and you can then people will realize you're not going to speak Swedish. So as an ignorant English person, it's quite useful, I think. And if you speak English well, then you're fine as well. There is an issue now though, because obviously Sweden are very welcoming of refugees, so they also have free Swedish classes called SFE for everyone who's come, and you have the opportunity to learn the language, and then you can integrate into society. But I imagine if people coming from like war-torn parts of the world into Sweden, and I don't know if they will be able to speak English or Swedish, so their home language is what they speak. This is why they do these free Swedish classes to help get everyone to
It's great.
have a great standard of living, which is why I think it's a really good system they've got. But yeah, Sweden's really really nice. I quite like it here. But
Nice, nice.
yeah, I came for work as well, like you, and I had a job beforehand, and it was relatively seamless. Apart from I needed a visa because of Brexit.
Oh
So
yeah,
and that was an absolute nightmare to do.
I know.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
hard. And my girlfriend still lives in the UK, so when she comes over, she can only be here for 90 days every 6 months. So
Okay.
they're always checking her passport now for stamps and how long she's been here for, which is quite can be quite a headache. Right, have you been here for too long
Uh,
yet? Yeah,
yeah, I guess that's the effect of Brexit, isn't it?
yeah. It's things people didn't think about, like people got it wrong massively, I think so. But
Yeah.
all we can do is look forward and okay, we made a mistake. People were told lies probably, but there's no
Yeah.
point saying, "Oh, that was so wrong back then. It happened. Let's just go and find a solution to make it better." 7 years ago we voted for it. So
I know it's been a while. Yeah, I mean, I couldn't vote yet when
mm,
it was rolled out for voting anyway. Now I am British,
yeah,
which means that I will need less of that visa when I move around the world, but obviously now with Brexit will be the same thing. I'll need a visa.
yeah. And well, to travel it's fine. Like as to be a tourist, you never
Yeah,
needed. But if you wanted to move,
to work, yeah, yeah. It's gonna be
yeah.
more. Yeah.
And then before you moved to England, did you have accommodation sorted, or did the agency help you out with that as well? Or?
Yeah, they did. They prepared accommodation for us, which we stayed in for 3 months,
Oh wow!
and for our own accommodation, which was all right anyway.
Yeah, that's really handy because one thing I've noticed here that the stressful part for me was finding somewhere to live when I moved, which was it's quite helpful having 3 months of it sorted
Yeah,
for you. It might help you then mean you can find some friends who are doing a similar thing and then find somewhere together if you needed to do something.
yeah. So yeah, that's why I'm saying that they really did take care of us. So and I think it's the same for most NHS nurses who come here, because I do take care now of nurses that are just coming from whichever country they're from.
Yeah.
To A&E, and I know that accommodation has been prepared for them at least for a few months, or they can even stay there if they want. It's usually hospital accommodation.
And you said other countries, so it's not just Philippines who can use the service. Is it international then? They're called global, I guess.
For which one? For the NHS?
Yes, for moving as a nurse to the UK.
Yeah, it's very international. You'll probably find a Filipino nurse anywhere all over the world.
One of your biggest exports is nurses.
I think so. Yeah, not just nurses, but definitely a lot
Very
of
skilled jobs. Great. Well, we'll see you for section 2 about. Welcome back, and welcome to section 2 of the podcast, all about being there, which is where we ask our guests all about how their first impressions were and anything that was different from society. So, Bella, what was your first impression of when you landed in the UK? What did you think, and what was the first thing you did?
So I landed in Gatwick in January, which is the middle of winter. coming from a tropical country and coming out of Gatwick Airport with a negative 4 degrees Celsius temperature.
Oh, wow.
It was just like very assaulting, I guess.
Hit you as you walked out the door.
It was like, oh my god, this is too much. So all of us felt that we didn't really wear enough clothes, so we were literally going into our luggages and getting some more extra clothes on. And because we had to take our photos, and we all had to wait for all our luggages to get into the bus, and there was like 50 of us, so that's a lot of people, so it took a while. So it was really, really cold. That made me think, I mean, why did I even come here?
Was it really worth it?
Is this gonna be my life forever? I'm gonna be cold all the time. But this was
That's
like,
how I felt moving further north.
so yeah, I thought that it was too cold. It was really cold. And then the drive to London wasn't really that cheerful, I would say. And there's nothing pretty about it. It was like, oh my god, like there was just this sinking feeling on the drive to London. Anyway, we went to a hospital called Queen Elizabeth Hospital, which is in Woolwich. So there it was nice because they gave us an orientation, sort of like an introduction about what we were getting ourselves into, and there was a little bit of get together. So the the Filipino nurses that were already here, I mean that came before us a few months ago, maybe 3 months ago, they set up a little bit of food and drinks just to welcome us. So that was nice. And lucky for me, I already had a good friend who was already here, gave me a few gifts. The trust also gave us sort of like a starter pack with duvets and stuff.
Oh, that's really kind.
Yeah. It's really good because my trust right now doesn't actually do it, but our trust did that for us. They gave us like a pack with like Oyster cards, like a tube map, just a little bit of like
just some help with logistics and things.
Yeah. And at that time, I didn't know that I needed a good smartphone. My smartphone wasn't a very good one. It was like
it needed everything now.
Yeah, it was
addicted to phones.
Yeah. My life back home wasn't like that. I didn't always have internet connection, so I didn't realize that here I needed to have that in order to navigate and everything. So yeah, that was an issue. So for the first maybe few months here, I relied on everyone else to help me get around, except for walking to work because let me see. No, I knew how to walk to the hospital and back home. But other than that, I didn't really travel anywhere else because I was too scared, unless there was somebody who had a proper phone who
Oh,
could
wow.
me. Yeah, because I had to, wait to get paid to get like a proper smartphone because
Yeah.
I didn't know before coming that I absolutely needed a smartphone.
Mm. Yeah, that's a good point. It's because I thought the UK wasn't so bad. We still have cash, but in Sweden there's no cash in life, so everything is cashless, and they use an app for it. And my key to my house is on my phone.
Oh,
So when I first moved, it's a similar problem. I was like, my phone's battery is really bad, and if it dies, I can't get into my house. So
oh my.
I was
You,
stressed for about 3 weeks until I got a work phone, which was a Swedish phone. And then I was
yeah,
like, okay, put my key on that one as well. So I've got a spare key, which is my other phone.
yeah. It's probably a necessity to always have like a battery pack to charge your phone just in case.
Yeah, there's one in my. I haven't used it for a while, which is good. Means I'm planning well. But yeah, it's always with me in case. But I was often asking bartenders if I can put my phone behind the bar to charge when I first moved, just because I had about 15%, and I was like, oh, I don't want to go home yet. So hey, excuse me, I'll buy some drinks if I can charge my phone, and that's how I got around the start of it,
Oh, okay.
which was quite useful. And it's a good way of just practicing some Swedish, I guess. Not an awful lot of it. And on language, obviously English people are notoriously bad at speaking other languages. So, did you, with your nursing degree or qualifications, was English part of that, or was it encouraged to learn English before
Uh,
you came? Or?
yes, I take an exam called IELTS.
Mm.
Yeah, I can't remember what IELTS, but it's an exam, and at my time, they had really high standards. So there was reading, speaking, listening, and writing,
Mm.
and you have to have like at least a 7 in each of them. The perfect score is 9.
Mm.
So if you had like a 6 point something on one of them, you've had to retake them all in
Oh,
order to
really?
come to the UK.
Oh.
Yeah, I think they've lowered the standards now because they need more nurses.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
Brexit might have helped as well because we
yeah,
get less from the EU.
but during my time, yeah, that was the standard. It was a really high standard. I think I had some friends who had to take it a few times just to qualify for the UK. I luckily was able to take it just once, and that was already good for me to qualify for the UK. And well, English is really a language that I'm very comfortable with. A lot of my jobs back home required me to speak English on the job, so it wasn't really a big adjustment. Maybe I had to adjust with the different accents here
Yeah,
because
every third street is a new accent. I think in London.
yeah, yeah, that was a bit difficult at the start, just adjusting to all the different accents. And sometimes I've had to say, sorry, what did you say
Mm-hmm.
again? I've had to say that repeatedly just so I could, understand what people were saying. But, as you go further and stay longer in the UK, you just accept that it is a very multicultural place. And obviously, my job requires me to communicate all the time, and you just get used to it. You get more familiar with the different accents, and most of the time, you understand people now compared to when I first came here.
Oh yeah, it must be such a shock because like a lot of my friends who are Spanish or from Latin America and places, even like German in the Netherlands, they all learn English, but they learn American English because of the media and films and everything, and a lot of English, I guess, publications are all in American English, and then you come to the UK, and it's like, wow, they speak completely different, and the different words are used. It must be quite a shock.
Yeah, yeah. Even the medical terms that we use back home was a bit different because, like you said, we are used to American English, aside from the fact that we were a colony of the USA at some point.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So we do learn American English, or British English was quite new to me, really. I like the sound of it, but then I also learned that, the quintessential British accent that most people would know is not really applicable to everyone in the UK.
Downton Abbey is not everywhere.
Yeah, people in the UK have different versions of the accent as well, so that was new to me. I didn't know that.
And what's your biggest change then between the Philippines and England in terms of day-to-day life? You mentioned your phone was a big thing you needed to use. Is there much else?
I mean, everything, I think. I mean, I'm definitely more independent here. I'm getting used to like the multicultural environment here in London. Maybe it would have been a little bit different if I were like posted in the countryside. It will be less multicultural, but being it's like everywhere there's a different language, there's a different culture, a different religion, and that's something that I was not exposed to back in the Philippines, because pretty much everyone looks the same back home. You know, we all come from the same culture, same religion, same everything. So I felt like I was in a bubble, Philippines, and coming here, it just felt like my world expanded. Also, I appreciated that it feels very free here, very, I don't know, more liberated, I would say, in terms of ideas. People are less judgmental to differences. Being in the NHS, I do appreciate the emphasis on equality and diversity. There are these 9 characteristics that need to be protected, which I think is great. I don't remember about us having law regarding that back home, or if we do, I don't know about it. People here have tattoos, which is not common back home.
Oh, really?
Like, everyone I know has a tattoo here, and which was surprising for me, because I believe back in my nursing practice in the Philippines, we were not allowed to have tattoos. We were not allowed to have a different color hair, which is, I think, very silly. So here I appreciate that our individuality is respected at work. You know, well, there are a few rules, obviously, like I have to tie my hair, which is for which I do understand. But coloring your hair, does that really affect the kind of care that you give to a patient or having tattoos? So I saw that the nurses here, the doctors, had tattoos. So that was lovely. And even walking around London, people don't really take too much notice of you if you're wearing something different. People just leave you to it. You can be whoever you want to be and wear whatever you want, as long as you're not hurting anybody. Recycling here is definitely better. It's not perfect. Wish it was better, but it's definitely better than back home in the Philippines. Like, we have better recycling centers here. Obviously, the UK is a developed country, so that makes a lot of difference. And being able to travel to different parts of Europe is also much easier, obviously, because I live in the UK, and I definitely exploited that on my probably first and second and third year here. I've kind of gotten over that stage as of now, because my priorities are different.
So where did you go when you traveled? What was your favorite cities you went to?
Yeah, I went to France a few times, Spain, just anywhere and everywhere, really. Yeah, and my friend and I have also traveled in different parts of the UK, which is wonderful. So, yeah, I've been exposed to all these different cultures and different landscapes that are definitely very different from what I was used to back home. Food obviously is different. I thought at first, that British food is quite bland. Obviously, from an Asian culture where like all our food is very much seasoned. But anyway, I've adjusted to everything now, and I do appreciate being here a lot. Also, I was shocked that it doesn't snow much in London. My perception was that it would snow.
Yeah, I think the city is too warm.
Yeah, which is a good thing. I appreciate that now. But when I arrived during winter, I thought that there'd be snow, because I just didn't know about the differences in places. I just thought that if I was in the West during winter, it would be natural to snow. I didn't know that wasn't applicable to everyone.
Yeah, it's surprising, because I moved here and it snowed so much since I've been here. There's like 20 centimeters I had the other week, which is a lot. So hello, welcome back, and welcome to section 3, which I've not named yet, which I should name the section, but it's all about the review of your time and your recap. So I guess to start off, if you could go back in time 8 years and give yourself a bit of advice before you moved, what would you say to yourself?
Honestly, I wouldn't change a thing. I think everything that needed to happen happened.
Mhm.
So, my advice would be to anybody who's looking, is it my advice to somebody coming to the UK? Is that the question?
Yeah, well, it's just you personally, what you would tell yourself, whether I guess you would just say live in the moment and keep going as you did. But then what would you tell someone moving away from the Philippines?
Okay, anybody moving away from the Philippines, well, I'm pretty sure you would be very, very excited. There's just so many opportunities out there, so many cultures to learn about, and so many places to visit.
Hmm.
I would say keep an open mind. Yes, you will miss our country. Yes, you will miss the food, but don't close yourself to things that you're familiar with. Definitely open yourself to all the other things that you can encounter in another country, such as the UK. Open yourself to the people here, hang out with people from the same country, with the same background, and the same language. I would encourage people to explore and get to know other people from different backgrounds, because then you would still be in the Philippines most
Yeah.
likely. It would feel like then if you just hung out, because that was me at the start, obviously. I would say at the start, yes, it is very valuable to find your own community of people coming from the same country and culture. It does help you feel less homesick, which
Mm.
I think was valuable for me in my first few years here. But also, if that's just where you are all the time, it also prevents you from growing and just learning about people and having more relationships that can be meaningful with other people from different backgrounds. And I'm just at a point right now where I'm glad that I've done what I've done before, more than 8 years ago. And I'm glad that I went through everything that I had to go through. I have had no regrets at all. I wouldn't change a thing. I wouldn't really give my old self, or my younger self 8 years ago, any other advice than just live in the moment, like you said,
Yeah.
and just take any experience as openly as possible. It's not going to be happy all the time, obviously, but things will only go up.
Yeah, that's great. That's some inspiring advice you've given, which is wonderful. And you mentioned about people from the Philippines you met, um, and you also mentioned about London being so diverse and full of other people. Did that help you settle in much faster because it wasn't like you were, as you say, compared to the countryside, everyone would be kind of the same. It wasn't like an outsider. It was very much of, oh, this is a cultural mixing pot of everyone. So it's really great. Did you feel that?
Yeah, I mean, I never really thought of it that way, but yeah, I guess it did. I mean, because I could see people from all different parts of the world, and yeah, that probably helped me, because then not everyone's the same. We're all very different.
Hmm.
And in healthcare, yeah, you would be working with all sorts of people, both from the medical side and the patients as
Yeah.
well. I definitely know how to use Google Translate, because some of the patients can't speak English.
Yeah. Neither can some English people, to be fair. So,
Yeah, yeah, because everyone back home spoke the same language, so I never really needed to use anything like Google Translate. But here, yeah, you need to use it when you're at work sometimes.
yeah, I never even thought of that. I use it a lot mainly because of random words in Swedish, but it's not too much I've ever had to think about, which is quite insane. But yeah. And then, what's your favourite place you've been to in the UK?
Yeah, if it's England, I would say yeah, Lake District, definitely.
If it's not raining as well. It
Um,
rains a lot in Lake District for me.
it does, yeah, it does. Yeah, I have been lucky a few times where the weather's been good. So yeah, there are really beautiful places in the UK, and I do appreciate that. I do like seeing the nature and experiencing it. Another place is Cornwall. Cornwall's really nice as well.
Nice. Quite hard to get to though.
Yeah, from London, yeah, actually.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is a
Worth,
wonderful place.
yeah, well worth doing.
Yeah, it's warmer as well. And Snowdonia, I would say, in Wales is very pretty.
Yeah, I bet they've changed the name now back to its Welsh name, or they're changing the names of all the Welsh mountains in Snowdonia.
Oh, really?
Back from the anglicised names to the Welsh names. So I need to find out what it's going to be called from now on.
Okay, that I don't know. I haven't
Yeah.
been there. But I will be doing the Three Peaks Challenge in June. So
Oh, it's great. I did it.
We'll find out if they've changed the name, what the name is now.
I did it during COVID, the Three Peaks.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, in September 2020, and that was fun. We three of us in a car. We were meant to go to Italy, but that got cancelled. So we ended up just driving up in an Audi and doing it in 22 hours, I think it was. But with no sleep because we were driving as well. So
that sounds exhausting.
Yeah, but Scarpa Pike in the middle of the night is interesting.
Yeah, I've done that too. Scaffold Pike night. Yeah, this is my third attempt because the first and second times that I've tried it, there was always something wrong with either the traffic or the vehicle.
Oh wow. Yeah, I think we were lucky because people do it in huge groups. We did it in the three of us, and that might have made it easier because buses break down more than cars, I've noticed.
Yeah. So, was there a lot of people when you did it, or this was during COVID pandemic, so it was probably less people?
There was 3 groups I saw doing it when we did it, because we did it quite late, because these people do it in the longest day of the year, because more daylight. Whereas we did it in September, but there was 2 other groups doing it with us at the same time. Obviously, people can start it at different times of day, so you don't see it to them very well, but we saw one group of about 7 or 8 people, and another group of about 3 or 4. We were passing quite a lot up and down the mountains, which was quite fun. And then we saw them at the end when we finished, and we had some food, and they were there, so it was quite nice to see how they experienced it compared to what we did. I think they just fell short of time. They did it in 25 hours, so they were quite upset with themselves.
Aw, that's all right.
They still did an amazing job of doing all 3 in 25. It's still an incredible feat of things to do. But what's your favourite place in London specifically then? You've done England as a whole, and London's less hiking, but have you ever a favourite spot in London?
Favourite spot in London? I can't decide.
You can have more than one, it's fine.
So there is anywhere where I can see the St. Paul's Cathedral is really pretty. It's really nice. I like watching it. Very, very touristy. How about
my girlfriend does a walking tour past St. Paul's Cathedral, so I've seen it a lot.
Tower Bridge.
Yes.
Bridge is very pretty. Oh, and there's this Albert Bridge. It's not very as famous, but it's very pretty. You can see it from Battersea Park.
I'll have to go and take a look. I've probably been over it, but I've probably forgotten the name of it.
Yeah, not gonna be. It's obviously not as touristy or as famous as Tower Bridge.
Yeah.
It's really nice, especially during the night as well when they light it all up.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's quite west, I guess. Go towards Battersea.
Yeah. And one thing I do appreciate about London is there's always a green space near you, which is not the same for when I was back home. I lived in a city, and definitely probably the greenest space is my mom's garden, but
So tropical climates you'd expect to be like full of greenery and everything else, which quite
well in the country area, but I lived in a city all my life, so it's different.
I'd never appreciated that, which is something that's really interesting.
Yeah. So that's one thing I appreciate about London, because I've been told that in New York, the only green space there is Central Park.
Yeah.
I mean, which is very different from London, because London has loads of green space everywhere, and I do appreciate that so much.
Yeah, the parks are beautiful. I used to walk through Hyde Park quite a lot when I used to go, and then obviously Regent's Park and St James's Park, which I think is really nice places to visit. But there's also that place near Fulham, on the kind of where the river does this weird shape, near Putney, I think it is, which is it's like going into the countryside. You realise you've not left the city.
Oh, okay.
But I can't remember what it's called now. Someone will definitely tell me. But yeah, it's quite west, near Putney. But it's like a forest or woods, which is really nice to go walking in.
Yeah, that's interesting, isn't it? Such as how East London is quite connected to I think forest.
Yeah, and you've got, I guess, Surrey in the southwest, which is beautiful as well, but it's quite far out.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't been to that part, but yeah, that would be interesting to visit. Yeah, I mean, London is a huge, huge city. I don't think I've been to every part of it, and there's still always going to be parts of it that I haven't discovered
Yeah.
yet.
Well, there's more people living in London than in the whole of Sweden where I live, so it's always going to be full of places to find, I'm sure. Wonderful. Well, thank you for joining me on this podcast. We'll just do a quick outro, and then thank you, Bella, for joining me on this podcast. It's been great. I really enjoyed the appreciation of that in Philippines. There was not as much greenery as in London, which was really interesting to me because I had this vision of Philippines being, because it's a tropical climate, as you said, being full of nature all around. So it's quite an insight into something which I've been quite ignorant about. So thank you. It's the whole purpose of this podcast is to learn from other people who've got different backgrounds and lived all over the world, which is what I love. So thank you for that. And I guess it's where can people find your work and find your socials?
Yeah, I do have Instagram and TikTok. I can't even remember what I call myself in TikTok, but you can find me on Instagram. It's Belly Bone, so that's Bellie Bone. It's a high school nickname, and it's just there. I haven't really changed it.
We can put your socials in the show notes as well, and we'll put it on Instagram so people can find you and
Yeah.
take a look at your content, which is great.
Thank you.
Wonderful. And thank you so much. And if you did find some information in this podcast which you wanted a bit more about, please send me a comment. And yeah, else we'll see you next time for the next episode.